Welcome to Cyberside Chats. My name is Sherri Davidoff.
I'm Matt Duran.
Yep. And we are from LG Security. Today we're going to talk about quantum computing and the impact on cybersecurity.
No, security in general, yeah.
Yes. And I mean, if you've seen any of the headlines and heard any of the hype, you might think the sky is falling.
It's a quantum apocalypse.
A quantum apocalypse. And all of security is breaking. And hopefully my computer will get faster in the process, right?
Ideally,
fingers
yeah.
crossed. Quantum computing is not magic. And I'm both sad and happy about that. Because I do want a faster computer.
I do too.
Quantumly fast computer. But the reality is that quantum computing makes it possible to solve specific types of math problems really fast.
Yeah.
But it's not good at everything. It's not going to help us stream videos. It's not even going to break all of encryption.
No, but it's going to break some pretty important ones.
Like what? What parts of security are going to break?
Well, like RSA encryption, public key encryption. The big ones.
We rely on these things for cryptographic authentication today, for secure web surfing, secure payment cards, digital contract signing. That's really big. We're going to talk about that. And many other key security functions. But hope is not all lost. We're going to talk today about what you can do because this will be a transition. Quantum computing is not happening today. It's a process, and we really just need to transition. Kind of like Y2K. Am I dating myself?
Oh, I remember Y2K.
I know my first job out of high school was actually researching what would be affected. I was working for the Bank of New York, and we had to research like what would break in New York for Y2K and prepare against it. So this was like a multi-year process. And same is true for quantum computing as well. And hopefully it will be a big nothing burger like Y2K because a lot of us put a lot of work into it.
Ideally. And I mean, a lot of like big tech companies like Microsoft and Google are already preparing for the inevitable kind of introduction to these computers.
Yeah.
So by the time we get to that point, hopefully we will have the safeguards in place that it's not such a
I don't
huge
think
deal,
this one's going to be a nothing burger though, if I'm honest.
Well, we rely on the public key infrastructure so much for a lot of different things, like e-commerce is a great example of that. And that's what's, like, honestly really at risk when we talk about what quantum is going to break. So,
well, okay, in 20 seconds, tell us how quantum computing works.
Only 20
Go.
seconds, huh?
Nope,
Okay.
I've got my watch.
So when we look at a regular computer system and we want to do something like, brute force a password, we can only really guess one thing at a time. I mean, we're looking at just a stream of ones and zeros. With quantum computing, they use qubits, and qubits can either be 00, 01, 10, 11, or multiples of those. And when we look at the number of guesses it can kind of take simultaneously, we're depending on the number of qubits. If you have 500 qubits, you can do 2 to the 500 power guesses.
Okay, you keep going. I'm giving you an
yeah.
extension.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Realistically, though, what this means is that instead of guessing one thing at a time, you can theoretically guess like every answer to a problem simultaneously.
Quantum superposition. Yeah. So does that mean we can just guess keys because we can guess a bazillion things all at once?
Kind of, no.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
You can't just say, it basically makes it so that you can use probability to accelerate the speed at which you solve problems. And some of those are really accelerated. Like anything involving large number factorization, like, oops, RSA relies on that.
Yeah.
Those are really wicked fast for quantum computer. Yeah, I said wicked. I lived in Boston. Those are wicked fast for quantum computers to solve.
Yeah.
So do you guys remember what asymmetric key cryptography is, by the way? That means like what one key, Diffie-Hellman is also at risk, I believe so.
Diffie-Hellman
definitely.
is also at risk.
Yeah, no, this is going to break the internet if we don't do something, but we're not going to be a deer in headlights collectively. We're going to move.
Good question, Brad.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. Okay, so, sorry, where were we? We were just talking about,
Public key encryption.
Public key encryptions, thank you. So asymmetric key cryptography, what one key locks, the other key unlocks. And that's really important on the internet. For example, when you're surfing the web, if you want to do a key exchange so that you can share secret information, you need asymmetric key cryptography. And we also use it to authenticate. So if you want to know that that really is eBay, there's a private key that's used to sign a certificate, and you use the public key to verify that. So quantum computing will also break digital contract signing. It will break things like phishing protection on the internet. How do I know this is really Microsoft's website? All kinds of stuff. Again,
passkeys operate off that same.
Passkeys. Whereas symmetric key encryption, you use the same key to lock and unlock. And unfortunately, those asymmetric key encryption algorithms are by and large, what is the most vulnerable. Those are the problems that are the most accelerated.
Well, and it's because the big popular variations of it out there, like RSA as the example, uses like large prime numbers, and they factor those to actually, set the encryption up.
Right.
That is what with Shor's algorithm and
Yep.
a quantum computer,
Yep.
that's exactly what can be broken. That specific kind of math problem is really not secure at
Yeah,
this
so
point.
Diffie-Hellman, ECC, RSA,
Yep.
those are the types of algorithms that are the most at risk. Whereas AES is actually, it will accelerate it, but right now AES 256 is still considered quantum resistant.
Yeah, so SHA-512. So
Oh, yeah, exactly. So there are still some algorithms that will not be as impacted. Okay, so can we dig in and talk about all the different things that are going to break? Maybe starting with software updates.
Yeah, let's start with that.
Okay, tell me what you think.
Okay, so with software updates, when you get an update like in Windows, the update comes as a digitally signed package, meaning there is a public key associated with it. There's a signature associated with it. You have a kind of a matching key built into your computer already, so you can verify that it did actually come from Microsoft. But if we are able to break that public key encryption and the public signing, that means that you could start distributing malicious updates to Windows and make it look like they were coming directly from Microsoft.
Right.
So, yeah.
So that's a problem. And hopefully, big major vendors like Microsoft are on this. And we're going to have to develop new types of encryption algorithms that are quantum resistant. And NIST has already kicked off this process. We already have a couple of draft quantum resistant algorithms. It's just going to be a process of shifting over to those.
Yeah, I mean, they've actually had those out for a while now. We looked into this a couple of years ago when we first started hearing about post-quantum computing.
Yep.
And yeah, they've been on this one for a while. So yeah, again, ideally by the time this becomes a reality, we have safeguards in place.
Okay, now you name one that's scary.
So a big one that is scary for me, let's go with email signing.
Oh.
I think that one's pretty terrifying. Or cryptocurrency.
No, I wanted to. I'm stealing
you want to do
cryptocurrency.
cryptocurrency?
You
Okay,
do
yeah.
the email signing.
So with email signing, remember we can verify that an email actually comes from me because I digitally signed that email, and that is one of the big kind of anti-phishing tactics that we use. Because again, you can verify that the email came from who they said it came from, and if you can't do that, or if you can't trust that signature, then that kind of ruins secure email for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But not as cool as what's going to happen to Bitcoin, or not as interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to need to have a major system upgrade. So I was wondering if all of Bitcoin is going to break, and the answer is kind of. So the way that quantum computing works, if you have the public key, you can rapidly reverse engineer the private key.
Yeah.
And if you have the private key, you can rapidly reverse engineer the public key. And Bitcoin's network, asymmetric key encryption is so cool, by the way. Check out some of our videos on, I know this is one of my favorite topics, how encryption works. We go into how important asymmetric key cryptography is, including in cryptocurrency, including in Bitcoin. So your wallet is a public-private key pair. Oh my God, this is going to break. And if I want to send Matt money, I would write a message that says, hello, I'm sending Matt 500 Bitcoin. Let's pretend I have that amount. And essentially, this is very watered down.
Yeah.
You're going to sign it using your private key and send it out to the Bitcoin network. And it's going to identify Matt with his public key.
Yeah.
So that's how your Bitcoin gets spent. And the problem is once your public key is out there, then somebody can reverse engineer your private key and spend more of your money. So honestly, the first thing I thought of was, holy cow, I want to steal all of Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin. That's billions of dollars, you guys.
Yeah.
Finally, we can move that money. The problem is Satoshi Nakamoto has never spent those funds.
Yeah, it's completely private at this point.
Yeah,
you can't see the keys for it.
There is no transaction in which his public key has ever been revealed. And so as a result of that, quantum computing would not immediately be effective at reverse engineering the private key and allowing us to steal whoever, him, her, their cryptocurrency.
So all we have to do is just never spend any cryptocurrency.
Never spend your cryptocurrency and you'll be fine, you guys.
That's perfect.
I'm going to keep my eyes peeled for, watch out. If that money disappears, probably me.
There you go.
Okay, what else is scary for you?
So secure web traffic, I think, is another one that we are going to run into some big problems with. Google's already been, and Microsoft as well, have already been experimenting with quantum-resistant TLS, and they're not ready to put it into production yet. Again, hopefully it's there by the time quantum computing really hits its kind of nexus. But Yeah, we rely on public key encryption for secure web browsing. If I want to know if a website is legitimate, I need to be able to trust the certs along with it, and I need to be able to trust those keys.
Okay, so I had a thought.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about the whole harvest now, decrypt later issue.
Yeah.
Right now, there's a movement for people who are interested in decrypting massive volumes of data. They're just like, okay, this is all encrypted. I'm going to store it, and at some point, I'll be able to crack all this encryption. And I was like, how is this going to apply to our web traffic? And the answer is, if you get I think the answer is, if you get traffic that's encrypted with as part of a session, that was encrypted with a symmetric key algorithm, right?
Yeah.
But if you've also captured that Diffie-Hellman key exchange, you have the potential to unlock the rest of that session. That's my thought. I'm curious to know your thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, the whole harvest now decrypt later thing is kind of scary, mainly because, I mean, down the road, a lot of the encrypted stuff that's out there is going to be useless, right? Like, they're going to be passwords that have been changed. It's going to be things that are just really not worth time to waste. But that doesn't mean everything. Like, there still could be a lot of things that are really juicy, especially for like a nation state or something like that. When we're talking about encrypted, like sensitive data or encrypted web traffic from spies or something like that, if they can just harvest this all and then once the technology's there, decrypt it and break into it, that could still be pretty detrimental to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And if, let's say 10 years ago, your organization or you had sensitive information leaked on WikiLeaks or somewhere else, but don't worry about it, it's an encrypted archive, that could be crackable going forward. Stuff that we probably don't have to worry about, you lost a hard drive 5 years ago. Honestly, even if someone has it, it's probably using AES or some other algorithm that's resistant. So there's some things that we might need to worry about depending on what it's encrypted with. And if it's encrypted with a symmetric key algorithm, it can be sped up. You know, you have to think about how long was the key that was used to encrypt it. So AES is not totally immune.
It's somewhat resistant, though.
Yeah,
especially
it's resistant.
It's resistant, especially if you use like the longer versions of AES, because there's no, what do they call it, the mathematical trapdoor, like the big primes. You just have a key, which means you still have to brute force that key, which is faster with a quantum computer, but it's not instant.
Right, but I think, you know, when a lot of data breaches happened like 10 years ago, quantum computing was not a reality, and we were probably using shorter key lengths. Anyway, I'm speculating a little bit here. I'm not a cryptographer, and I am not a lawyer. But anyway, so yeah, harvest now, decrypt later is definitely a movement that's occurring. Okay, what else are we scared of that we need to prepare for?
Password hashes?
Password hashes, all those leaked password hashes. I think we can change passwords if only we wanted to. Authentication. So RSA and ECC digital signatures are used in SSH, they're used in VPNs, other TLS-based identity verification mechanisms. And so we're going to need to think hard about how we're doing authentication. And I'm sure this is going to impact certain types of MFA tokens like smart cards.
Yeah. Well, the thing that this just makes me mad. We're moving towards this beautiful passwordless future, and I think everyone's really excited about it. And passkeys function off of public-private key pairs.
Yes.
So this puts those at risk. Again, it's not going to kill them. There ideally will be some resistant forms that we can use, but smart cards, things like YubiKeys, those are potentially vulnerable to this, especially if they're using older algorithms.
And FIDO2 authenticators. Again, hopefully these major organizations are going to be migrating to more secure algorithms, and there are some finalists. So you're going to start to hear some different names of encryption algorithms coming out to be aware of. Can we hit, though, one last thing that we need to be thinking about that's very practical?
What's that?
Well, we talked about digital contracts a couple times, and I want to dig into this because if you have a contract right now that's digitally signed and it needs to be valid for 10 years or more, now is the time to cryptographically re-sign that.
Yeah, good call.
Because otherwise, you know, whenever Q day hits, the day that and Q day is going to be staggered. Like, you know, probably like some nation state will get it, and there'll be the haves and the have-nots, and who knows, maybe. What do you think are the odds that Q day has hit and we don't even know it?
I don't think it has yet. I think we'll be aware when it does. I just love the fact that they call it Q day, though. That's my favorite. Quantum
but anyway,
day.
after Q day hits, somebody could potentially work out the key and re-sign those older contracts. You know, maybe change things. So now is the time to start migrating. Take a hybrid approach if you need to, but migrate and use some of the newer quantum resistant algorithms to sign important contracts that need to be lasting a longer period of time.
Yeah, it's good advice.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to hit? We really covered a lot in a short period
We
of time.
did cover a lot in a very short period of time. No, not really. I think that what we need to remember is that this is not happening right away, and quantum computing is not magic. It will be a problem for security, but it's not an impossible problem to solve. We just have to be prepared for it as we move forward. And there's ways that we can do that. Again, making sure that we're using up-to-date encryption algorithms that are quantum resistant. I mean, that's a huge part of this. And just understanding what the actual risk is. We also need to make sure we're protecting the data that we already have, as you mentioned before.
I also heard that quantum computers might actually be slower for most things and not faster.
Yeah,
so
that's
that makes
true.
me a little sad.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the post-quantum cryptography world and how we get there.
Sure, yeah.
Actually, before we do, last thing, do you think that this is going to affect malware?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because I think we're going to see a lot of organizations that have not yet shifted to quantum-resistant computing. And so if you're getting cryptographically signed updates, like we saw when NVIDIA's private key was signed.
Yeah, when we started seeing malware show up, that was
you might get criminals saying, ooh, here's a major vendor that still has a valid older version of a key, and like, boom, we're going to cryptographically sign our malware. So I think that's something we need to be watching out for.
Even then, it could be bad for cyber criminals, because I mean, we could be looking at something like ransomware as an example. A lot of ransomware strains rely on, at least in some component, public key encryption. That's just how they work.
You know what also relies on it? Tor.
Tor, oh, that's right, yeah.
Okay, that's the topic for another episode.
Yeah.
We got to research this one.
Cool.
What will happen to the dark web post-quantum cryptography? All right, how can we migrate slowly but surely to this post-quantum computing future? Number one, map your crypto use today. What's important? How are you securing it? What encryption algorithms are you relying on? Think about digital contract signing. Think about storing your data encrypted in the cloud. Think about all the places where you might be doing cryptographic key exchange. And you might need to be upgrading or even thinking about re-encrypting certain things. So I think that's number one.
I think that's number one. Number two, I mean, if I were me, I would be asking my vendors about what kind of encryption they use and what their plans are for post-quantum cryptography. If they're planning on updating, if they're planning on just crossing their fingers and hoping it never happens, that could make a pretty significant difference depending on who you're working with and what their security standards are going to be.
Yeah, it's time to start including this in your vendor vetting process.
I think so, yeah.
Yep. Protect your long-term confidential data. So again, just to really emphasize this, if you have key data repositories, now is the time to think about how we're going to keep those private for 10 years or more. Or if you have information that got leaked in an encrypted form, you might want to look and see what algorithm was it encrypted with, and is this something that's going to be a risk for me?
Yeah. Next, just be ready for post-quantum cryptography. You're going to see stuff in the news start popping up more and more about it. And we mentioned earlier that NIST still has, or already has, guidelines, or at least a couple of draft versions of guidelines for this. I think paying attention to those, seeing if they change, seeing if they update, and then following them is hugely important.
Yeah, some of the finalists that you'll hear for encryption algorithms are like Kyber, dilithium, Falcon. So all these like newfangled terms we're going to start hearing. Similar to, Diffie-Hellman. It's like, it sounds new, but it's going to start to become familiar.
Kyber, aren't Kyber crystals the things they put in lightsabers?
Oh, interesting. It's so interesting how people name their encryption algorithms. We're going to have to dig into this. Okay, finally, start using a hybrid crypto approach. So that means we're combining the classical encryption algorithms that are widely supported today with some of the newer algorithms. So now is the time, again, to really start thinking about what is your hybrid crypto approach, and are you ready for the transition?
Yeah, fair enough.
Anything else you want to add?
That's all we have.
Okay.
Easy topic, right?
Easy topic. We are going to stick around to have a discussion with you guys. We can see your chats. So throw in your questions or comments into the chat. For those of you that hop off, we do this every week as a recorded podcast. So please subscribe, tune in, and hopefully we'll see you live again this month.
Hopefully.
So please like and subscribe. And let's take some questions if you have any.
Perfect. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and either throw them in the Q&A tab or throw them into the meeting chat, and we'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah. What are your questions about quantum computing?
My questions about quantum computing really are like how the computer systems actually function. We were looking at it. They use what, like phosphorus atoms
Quantum
and
entanglement
quantum
too.
entanglement.
That is magic.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, well, one thing we didn't cover is that so quantum entanglement is where two different particles? They can have the same state even if they're in completely different places. And again, I'm not a quantum computing expert, but it occurred to me that could someday facilitate totally secure key exchange. And I've run that by a couple people. I think we may see some actual benefits from the concepts of quantum computing as well when it comes to secrecy and privacy.
Yeah.
So once we get past this whole like, oh, we're breaking our algorithms thing, I think there are some benefits.
Brad asked, the focus for now is symmetric encryption while we wait for NIST. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly seen that symmetric encryption algorithms are much more resistant. Again, it can accelerate the speed at which those problems are solved, but not nearly the same pace as these these important asymmetric key encryption algorithms. And yeah, I do think now is the time to shift away from RSA, et cetera. So yeah, now's the time to start planning for that, especially if you're in a higher profile organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, everybody's at risk. Great question and comments.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah. Anything else on your mind before we wrap?
Oh, so much.
I know. Okay, well, we're always accessible on LinkedIn. Drop us a line. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you all next week, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.